Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please do subscribe my channel if you haven't done so. So in this video tutorial we are going to see what software testing is and other aspects of software testing. I'm going to cover some topics like what is software testing, importance of software testing, SDLC model, type of software testing levels, methods of software testing documentation, and difference between verification versus validation. So basically, let us understand what is software testing. We have seen that there are sometimes issues coming in any website or maybe any application because of which we are not able to perform any function. It does happen in production environment also sometimes, and we are facing certain glitches within that application or website. So why these issues are coming? Why we were not able to resolve that issue? So maybe sometime because of some miscommunication or maybe some gap in requirement, these kind of issues are coming. And to minimize these kind of issues, we are doing software testing. If we go by the definition, software testing is a process to evaluate the functionality of a software application with an intent to find whether the developed software met the specified requirement or not, and to identify the defects to ensure that the product is defect free in order to produce the quality product. So once we are doing software testing, what we are achieving with these and what we are evaluating the during the software testing. So basically we evaluate that the requirements that guided its design and development are met, responds correctly to all kind of inputs. So with all kinds of input, maybe you can say that whatever input is given, if I am entering number in the keypad, then it should enter number. So these kind of things, performs its function within an acceptable time. So this is like it's not taking any functionality to take lot of time, or maybe the app is not slow. These kind of things is sufficiently usable. So if anyone wants to use the application, he should not have that much difficulty in using that application. It should be having some good UI UX and usability aspect. And any user who is our a prime user, you can say that he should be able to use the app without any difficulty. It can be installed and run in its intended environment. So for example, I want to run my website on Chrome, then it should be able to work fine on Chrome browser. Apart from that, if we are supporting Firefox or any other browser, it should be working fine on that. Achieve the general result it is to stakeholders desire. So maybe if the stakeholders want something in the application that should be like working good, and it should be like this, then it should be as per the expectations of the stakeholders. A login button should only log in, or maybe if I am booking any flight, it should be able to book flight from anywhere. And if the stakeholders want to make the payment of the flight in different currency, then it should be able to make the payment in different currencies. So importance of software testing. Basically, software testing brings in lots of customer satisfaction, uh, and it also saves money, and the product quality of the application is also like very good. So if I am a user, I am using any website or any application, and if the product quality is not good, I am not going to come back to that application or to that website. So definitely it is going to cause loss in terms of remuneration to the organization, and also the customer satisfaction level will be very low. And even you also know, like if you are using any application or any website, and if it is too slow, you are going to go to the competitor's website and you are going to purchase your product or do whatever you want on their website. So it's like causing revenue loss to the organization itself. Apart from that, if we are not doing good software testing, then it can cause failure. And there are some great failure stories which I have attached in the links. You can just go through it and see. So basically, if we are not properly doing software testing, that it can cause failure cost. And it has been estimated by undo.io that the total value of salary spent fixing failing tests annually is around $61 billion, and the total of developer hours a year wasted on debugging software failure is around 620 million. Apart from that, the total in enterprise value lost for shareholders a year is around 1.2 trillion. So you see, like, if any application is failing, then what is the total cost of the failing application, and how much revenue the enterprise is losing because of cost failure. So in order to minimize these things, we are doing software testing so that we are not recurring any cost, and the end user are able to do their work on the application or the website as intended. So when we talk about software testing, we also talk about SDLC model. So basically, SDLC stands for Software Development Lifecycle Model. In this model, the starting phase of the application or website that we are building, in that there are certain phases, which is like requirement analysis, design, implementation, testing, evolution. So in requirement analysis, whatever the product is, we analyze the requirement and we analyze what all functionality should be there, how we can achieve those functionalities, maybe in terms of user perspective, maybe in terms of technical aspect. So all the requirements are gathered and grooming is done so that we are having a clear vision what the product is all about. In the second phase, we are designing. So in designing, we are creating mocks and other, you can say, we are creating mocks and other designs, you can say wireframes and other stuff, so that how the application will look in real time, and how the usability of the product will be. The third phase is implementation. This is where the real technical stuff starts and the developers code, and the stakeholders are carefully reviewing that what we are implementing, developers are implementing. And once the implementation is done, it goes into testing phase. So this is the tutorial that we are going to talk about. So in the testing phase, how we are testing, what is the impact of testing, what if we are not testing correctly, what will go wrong, and how the end user can get impacted. Once testing is done and everything is looking good, and tester has given sign off, we go into the evolution phase. So in this phase, like, the new changes are coming in, and with the new requirement changes, what we call RC, the requirement is analyzed again, and then the whole loops continues again and again. So it's like an a never ending process where we are designing the software application. So let's talk about software testing lifecycle model. So basically, when we are testing any application, there are certain steps which need to be followed. Some of these steps are like requirement analysis, test planning, test case development, test environment setup, test execution, and test closure. In requirement analysis, the testers analyze the requirement, what is the requirement all about. They raise question like how, if it is like this, if we are going to improve anything in that requirement, or if there is any gap in the requirement. We analyze all these things, and then we make a very clear understanding of what the requirement will be like. In test planning, the different aspect of resources are taking into consideration, that how we are going to test, on what system we are going to test, on what platform we are going to test, how many resources are going to work on that, what is the criteria, entry and exit criteria of testing, and other aspects. In test case development, we are designing the test cases. Like if we follow, if you have seen like how test cases are, we are designing all the test cases against the requirement. Say for example, the requirement is for login, then we are going to design the test cases for login, uh, with n number of cases, positive cases, negative test cases, and it will be peer reviewed by every tester or maybe any other stakeholder, uh, to give thumbs up that okay, this test case for this requirement is looking good. In the next step, we are setting up the test environment, where if we want to test anything, then that environment should be good. All the test data are created, and we are having a close look over how everything will be working on. So in test environment, maybe if I want to test in Chrome, I should have all the Chrome versions on which I want to test. And if I need any, if I have any dependencies, then I will be looking into the dependencies, and I will be sure that before I am starting execution, I have everything ready. So in test execution, I am executing the test case that has been developed previously against the functionality. And in test closure, so basically it is a sign off that whatever has been tested, it is working fine as per the requirement, and there is no major issue within the application which needs to be closed or which needs to be fixed before the closure. So the final sign off is given in test closure, and relevant stakeholders give sign off. The major one is given by the tester itself, that there is no critical bug within the system. So there are different types of software testing. One is functional testing, one is non-functional testing. In functional testing, there is unit testing, which is done by the developer, integration testing, which is done by the tester. Basically, it involves testing all the components together to perform integration testing. So in interface testing, we see that all the API and database which are communicating are working fine as per the desired output. System testing means testing the whole application in any system within any environment, so that we are able to say that whatever the application is about, it is working fine on that particular environment. System testing is conducted on a complete integrated system to evaluate the system compliance with its specified requirement. A regression testing is if any requirement change came in and we have done that requirement, or any new functionality has been added, then we perform regression in the old test cases on the old functionalities that has been created, in order to make sure that nothing is breaking. User acceptance testing is done by the end, not end users. User acceptance testing is done by the stakeholders, so that they are giving the acceptance, okay, the functionality that we wanted, it is according as per the requirement, and it is good to go live. Non-functional testing, it involves documentation testing. It is like reviewing the test cases and test strategies and test planning. Installation testing, so basically this is like if I'm testing any application, say mobile application or web application, then for example, I'm testing mobile application. If I am having any app on my mobile and I'm trying to install a new version of the application, so that application should work fine. Or maybe I am having any Windows application or Mac application I'm installing on any system, it should install fine, the installation should not fail. Then we have reliability testing. Reliability testing is to see that whatever has been designed, it is reliable. And security testing, it is to see the concern that there is no data leakage or any kind of data breach that can happen because of the application if it has not been handled correctly. So all the valuable information that the application is taking from the user, it should not get leaked. Apart from that, in security testing, we also see that uh, the application is very robust and it is very hard to break uh, by the hackers. In performance testing, we do load testing, stress testing, scalability testing, and volume testing. So basically, these kind of testings are non-functional testing. In load testing, we input the load on any particular system to see when it is going to break. In stress, it is the load over an extended period of time, that after what time, say for example, if the uh, performance of the application is like it can handle 10 users, so at till what time it can handle 10 users, 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 10 seconds, it is we are doing stress testing on that. Scalability testing is like how much scalable our system is. So basically in volume testing, we check the performance of the system with increased volume of data in the database. For example, if you want to volume test an application with a specific database size, expand your database to that size by adding more data in the database to increase the capacity and then perform the test. So there are certain levels of software testing. One of the level is unit testing, the second is integration testing, then system testing, and then acceptance testing. So unit testing is basically written by the developers. In unit testing, we test individual components. Integration testing is done by the tester. So all the components that have been created, they are integrated together, and then we are performing integration testing. System testing is like what I said, that once everything has been integrated, then we are testing the whole application on one particular system. So if I want to make sure that on Windows system my application is working fine, I will test that application on Windows. Then acceptance testing is the final requirement that was given by the stakeholder. Is it intended? Is it working like how it was supposed to be? That is done by the end stakeholders, and it is the final system which is being done, final test which is being done in the final system. So there are certain methods of software testing. One of the method is black box testing, white box testing, and gray box testing. In black box testings, the technique of testing without having any knowledge of the interior working of the application is called black box testing. So in black box testing, methods include equivalence partitioning, boundary value analysis, all pairs testing, state transition tables, decision table, fast testing, model based testing, use case testing, exploratory testing, and specification based testing. White box testing is the detailed investigation of the internal logic and structure of the code. White box testing can be applied at the unit, integration, and system level of the software testing process. It is usually done at the unit level. And then there is one last type of testing method, gray box. So the tester will often have access to both source code and executable binary. Gray box testing may also include reverse engineering using dynamic code analysis to determine, for instance, boundary values or error messages. So there are certain documentation that we need to design in software testing lifecycle phase. So the documents are like test scenarios, test template, reports, test cases, test data, test plan, and we also need to review these documents. So basically, test scenario is like login functionality. If I talk about test scenario, it is given a generic example like login functionality, and how we are going to design different type of scenarios. It depends on the requirement of the functionality that will be added. Then test template is like the template of the test cases. So if I want to have the template of like how particular functionality will look like, then I need to design the test template. Then test plan, it is basically from the test scenarios we create from the test scenarios we create test cases. So if for login functionality I will have uh, test cases like the user is entering correct username, and correct password, the user is entering correct username and wrong password, the user is entering wrong username and correct password. So these kind of test cases we are going to design. In test plan we are going to see how we are going to utilize the resources and how we are going to perform the testing, what kind of testing is going to be performed, on what system we are going to perform these, how many browsers we are going to support. So test plan contains these kind of things. Test data, in order to perform any testing, if we need any test data we are going to create that. Say for example, I need to have some test data for username and password. I need to have some users beforehand so that I'm able to perform the testing on the application. Reports are basically the number of test cases that have been passed and that have failed, and maybe some test cases which are not applicable. Any major issue that is coming, we are adding that in the reports. So before these things are done, these documents are carefully reviewed by the peers or maybe other stakeholders, so that if any issue is coming on the static analysis of the requirement, we are improving the document, and then we are performing the desired work on that particular document. So difference between verification versus validation. So validation is the assurance that a product, service or system meets the need of the customer and other identified stakeholders. It often involves acceptance and suitability with external customers, contrast with verification. So verification, the evaluation of whether or not a product, service or system complies with a regulation, requirement, specification or imposed condition. It is often an internal process. Contrast with validation. One is the verification of the document and then one is the validation of the product, so that we are aligned together and we are making the correct product altogether. Bug life cycle. So if we tested any functionality, say for example in login functionality, some of the test cases were failing, like the user was not able to log in with the correct username and correct password. So we will open a bug for that, and that bug, it will be unconfirmed first, so it will be a new bug. Developer will pick up this work, or maybe I can assign this, or any developer internally can assign themselves, and then they will be going into the fixing process of the bug. And once the bug is resolved, they are going to be verified by the tester, and if the tester says okay, this is working fine, and the bug is closed. But if the developer has fixed the bug and the tester is not satisfied and maybe the issue is not working as expected, then the bug will be reopened and it will be assigned back to the development team. So this is the whole process of software testing life cycle, in which we are not, sorry, software testing life cycle, but bug life cycle, in which we are taking care like how we are going to test the application issue which is coming in, and if it is getting fixed or not. If it is not getting fixed, it will go back to the developer, and if it is fixed, the tester will verify and then close the bug. So in the resolved section there can be different condition, like it's fixed or maybe it is duplicate, the bug was already reported previously, or maybe because of some constraint we are not able to fix the bug, it will be marked won't fix. So likewise there are number of possible resolution for the issues. So let's come to the salary of the tester. Basically, a testers earn 123.15 dollar per year. Average tester salary is quite good, and it is a big number. So basically, ad hoc testing is a commonly used term for software testing performed without planning and documentation, but can be applied to early scientific experimental studies. So basically, ad hoc testing is also known as random testing or monkey testing. In ad hoc testing, the tests are intended to be run only once unless a defect is discovered. Ad hoc testing is the least formal test method. As such, it has been criticized because it is not structured. Hence, defects found using this method may be harder to reproduce since there are no written test cases. So, when we are doing any random testing or what we say ad hoc testing, we are not having any proper plan, any test cases, or any document to follow in order to have a strategized testing. So, it is not very easy to reproduce that bug if we are finding it in ad hoc testing. However, the strength of ad hoc testing is that important defects can be found quickly. But the fact is, once we are testing the application using ad hoc method, we are able to find the bugs much more quickly. And also, most of the time, the major bugs which are found, it can be reproduced easily. It is performed by improvisation. The tester seeks to find bugs by any means that seem appropriate. Ad hoc testing can be seen as a light version of error guessing, which itself is a light version of exploratory testing. So basically, when we are doing ad hoc testing, though we don't have proper documentation and these kind of things, but we are trying to use our logical skills in order to find the bugs, maybe from our past experience or maybe from guessing that okay, this issue is critical issue, maybe we will be able to find more issue in this particular place. So that's why ad hoc testing is preferred for getting important defects quickly, finding important defects quickly. We need to remember 3 points for ad hoc testing. We don't need any documentation. No test design is needed for ad hoc testing or random testing or monkey testing, and no test cases are also required for ad hoc testing. So we can sometime write the bug which has been found during ad hoc testing. We will try to reproduce that bug and then we are going to report that bug during ad hoc testing. So it's not like if we are able to find the bug in ad hoc testing and we are not able to, if we are not able to reproduce that bug, then it's of no use. So basically, if you are finding any crash or something like that in ad hoc testing, you are going to see the crash logs and you will try to identify why the issue is coming, and then the developer will try to fix that issue. Let's see the definition of acceptance testing. Acceptance testing is also known as user acceptance testing, UAT, end user testing, or field acceptance testing. Acceptance testing criteria are the criteria that a system or a component must satisfy in order to be accepted by a user, customer, or authorized entity. So basically, in acceptance testing, the end user is going to accept the product, accept the requirement, accept the user stories that has been designed during the software development life cycle after testing has been done. So it is the last stage of doing testing. This is usually done by the stakeholders. Say for example, if I have designed a login user story, so during acceptance testing, the stakeholder will test all the acceptance criteria of that particular story. He is going to see the user interface, and if he is going to feel that there is any bug or maybe there can be any enhancement, he can give suggestion for the same. So at the end of the acceptance testing, we can say the product is ready for the release in the market. So for acceptance, we are usually doing smoke test. A smoke test may be used as an acceptance test prior to introducing a build of software to the main testing process. User accept test UAT criteria in agile software development are usually created by business customers and expressed in a business domain language. These are high level tests to verify the completeness of a user story or stories played during the sprint iteration. So in agile, whatever acceptance criteria has been defined during sprint planning, those acceptance criteria are treated as a high level test cases. What we are expecting during
successful UAT. So basically, the anticipated result of a successful test execution includes test cases are executed using predetermined data, actual results are recorded. So all the results which we are having, pass, fail, maybe any new suggestion, maybe any new bug, that are recorded. Actual and expected results are compared. So from the acceptance criteria, the test cases that we are creating, they are compared from the actual and expected result. So for example, if from the acceptance criteria we are deducing that with correct password and correct email user should log in, so we are going to compare that the actual is correct user and correct password user should be login. Is the expected same? Are the user able to log in with the correct username and correct password? So this is the actual and expected results, how they are compared. Test results are determined. So depending upon the test cases executed, all the test cases for that particular user stories, they are determined. And if in case there is any lag, we are concluding that are we good to push the application on the production environment or not. And based on those results, final decision is being taken. The objective is to provide confidence that the developed product meets both the functional and non-functional requirements. So this is one of the key objective of acceptance testing. We are basically doing acceptance testing from the end user perspective so that the functional and the non-functional requirements, they meet as per the acceptance criteria, and the user, end user means consumer, who are going to use that application, they are going to use it in a better way without any hindrance. What is bug life cycle? As per the definition of bug life cycle or defect life cycle, it is the journey of a defect cycle which a defect goes through during its lifetime. It varies from organization to organization and also from project to project, as it is governed by the software testing process and also depends upon the tools used. So overall, as the name suggests, bug life cycle or defect life cycle is the whole process of how once a bug is discovered, what we are going to do with that bug, and at the end is it going to get resolved or not. So there are different processes which needs to be followed in order to close that bug. Let us see what are the process followed in order to close the bug. Bug can also be closed if it is out of requirement, if it is not causing any harm to the application under test. Once a bug is reported by the user or the tester, it is kept on hold. It is reviewed, and if the bug is valid, it is moved to in progress. Otherwise, it is closed. The decision is being taken by the stakeholder, maybe the product owner or the business analyst, whether the bug is valid or not. Invalid bugs are basically not causing any major impact on the application under test, or they are directly not related to the requirement of the acceptance criteria. Once the bug is in progress and fix is being done by the developers, so basically they are resolving the issue, creating a PR, and then they are fixing the bug. Once it is reviewed by the tester, it is passed QA, and then it is approved. Once the bug is approved after testing, retesting, then it is deployed and the issue is getting closed. If the issue still persists, that is once the developer has fixed the bug, but still we are replicating the bug and it can be reproduced on different test environments, then again it is moved to in fixed column, and there it is being fixed by the developer, then again it goes to review. So this is the whole cycle which is taking place, and once retesting is done and the bug is not able to reproduce, we are closing the bug. The difference between retesting and regression. Basically, this is a very confused topic. Some of the even very experienced professionals are not able to tell the difference between retesting and regression. Everyone I mean, everyone, every QA, whether he is experienced or not, should know this basic difference about retesting and regression. So let us see what exactly it is. So basically, retesting any application is important once there is any bug fix, or maybe there is any changes in any environment, we need to do some retesting. So retesting in generic means testing again and again, and regression is a superset of retesting. So let's see what regression means. It is carried out to ensure that existing functionality is working fine and there are no side effects of any new changes or enhancements done in the application. In other words, regression testing checks to see if new defects were introduced in previously existing functionality. So when we are doing regression testing, basically we are doing regression testing once there is a change request which is raised by the client or maybe any other stakeholder, product manager, which leads to change in the code base, or if there is change in test environment, or if any bug has been fixed, we do regression testing. It is also done when a new feature is added to a existing application. Also, regression testing is done if we are upgrading to new version of any library or new OS release is coming. So basically, if so for example, I am working on XYZ version of Node.js and there is a new version of Node.js in the market XYZ plus one, then I need to do whole regression on the application so that I need to make sure there is no break breakage because of any change in the libraries, or say for example any new operating system version is released, or maybe any new browser version, or any new environment is released, like say for example Apple will be coming with iOS 14 recently, so I will be doing a quick regression testing on the iOS 14 OS version of the application. Also, regression testing is also done when there is any change in UI UX of the application. Now we will see what is retesting. Basically, retesting is carried out in software testing to ensure that a particular defect has been fixed and it is functionality working as expected. So the purpose of retesting is to ensure that particular bug or issue is resolved and the functionality is working as expected. Retesting has to be carried out prior to regression testing. So keep in mind, before doing regression testing, we need to do retesting. Retesting is done when we are testing for specific features. Say for example, there is in your application there is a new feature coming for sign in with Apple. So I won't be testing sign in with Facebook, or maybe sign in with email or normal sign in the testing phase. That will be done in regression. So retesting is executed in the same environment with the same data but with a new build. Sanity and smoke testing. So sanity testing, when we do sanity testing, so basically we do sanity testing whenever we receive a new build that is relatively stable to identify the dependent missing functionality. In other words, you will validate the major functionalities of the system in a more detailed way. End result of sanity testing are similar to that of smoke testing. That is, if build passes the sanity test, it would be considered stable. So if you are getting any new build from the developers, then in order to proceed with the full depth testing, you are doing sanity in order to make sure that every major functionality of the application is working fine, whether it's new functionality or old functionality. You make sure that the build is getting installed correctly and all the data, related test data needed for testing, are working fine on that particular build, so that you are not facing any issue later when you start a full-fledged testing. So what is smoke testing? Basically, smoke testing we do when we want to test whenever we receive a new build that is relatively unstable, to ensure that the critical functionalities of the UAT working fine. The idea of this test is to find critical problem as soon as possible and reject the build so that we don't waste time to test further. That is the broken build. Though smoke test stability of newly developed software builds is assets to make a decision over further execution of thorough and rigorous testing activities on these builds. So basically in smoke testing, to give a real life example, like when you are getting a new build and you will do some smoke testing on that build, so that to make sure that everything what we want to perform testing on is working fine. So now it's very confusing, like what is smoke and what is sanity. It almost looks similar. To give a very specific answer, you do sanity on any build so that you run some of the subset of the regression tests in order to ensure that the build is working fine. For smoke, basically it's done on new functionalities. It is not done on old functionalities. And in smoke, we need to test around the new functionalities and make sure that the build is acceptable for further testing. What is test strategy? Let's go and see the definition of test strategy. As per the definition of test strategy, it is an outline that describes the testing approach of the software development lifecycle. The purpose of a test strategy is to provide a rational deduction from organizational high-level objectives to actual test activities to meet those objectives from a quality assurance perspective. What all we are going to do in a software development life cycle to achieve a very good product by doing quality assurance of the product, which we need to follow in order to achieve the quality of the product. And test strategy is an outline for those procedures that we need to take in order to achieve a very good quality of the product. Going forward, the creation and documentation of test strategy should be done in a systematic way to ensure that all objectives are fully covered and understood by all stakeholders. So here it means that all the documents that we are creating in test strategy and all steps that we are going to include in test strategy, those should be very clear and the objective should be very clear, and we all means like all the stakeholders, developer, tester, product owners, and maybe other UAT testers and other stakeholders should have common understanding that what we are going to achieve. It should be also reviewed frequently, challenged and updated as the organization and product evolve over time. It's not like we have just created the document and for the sake of creating and we are not updating it. It's not like that. We need to update the document, we need to change the document as per our needs and as per our feasibility. If there are certain, if some process is like obsolete, we need to remove those process and we need to remove that document, we need to remove that objective, and then we are going to update that. Furthermore, a test strategy should also aim to align different stakeholders of quality assurance in terms of terminology, test, integration levels, roles and responsibilities, traceability, planning of resources, etc. Whatever we are defining in test strategy, the objective should be clear to everyone, and whatever we are defining, all the stakeholders should have some common understanding. Okay, if the number of resources are going to work, will be 5 resources, then every stakeholder should agree to that, and all the test cases we are going to write, all the requirement traceability metrics we are going to write. Every stakeholder should have common understanding about these things, and the vocabulary that we are going to use. Every developer, tester, uh, product manager, business managers, and other stakeholders should be having some common understanding. This strategy describe how the product risk of stakeholders are mitigated at the test level, which types of testing are to be performed, which are entry exit criteria. So basically in test strategies we are going to have all the level of test cases that we are going to define all the level of test cases that we are going to have, and what type of testing we are going to perform, when we are going to start the testing, and when we are going to say that okay, testing has been done and we just need to give final sign off for the product release. We need to define these criteria, we need to define these objectives, so that it's like for me testing is completed, but for developers or maybe for product managers or other stakeholders testing is not completed. So in order to avoid these chaos, we need to have some common understanding. They are based on development design documents. System design documents are primarily used, and occasionally conceptual design documents may be referred to. Design document describe the functionality of a software to be enabled in the upcoming release. For every stage of development design, a corresponding test strategy should be created to test the new feature. Design document, we mean to say that requirement document, or you can say requirement traceability document, or software requirement specification document, SRS. Whenever any requirement is coming, we are going to define our test strategy depending on those documents which maybe a BA or product owner is bringing in. Depending on those requirement, we are going to say okay, we are going to do functional testing or we are going to do non-functional testing. Say for example, a requirement is tech requirement is coming that we need to move to some other cloud, like from AWS we are going to move to Azure cloud. So we need to test that what our software is it working fine after deployment on Azure. So these are like technical requirements. So we need to design all the test strategies based on this. So if any CR is coming, CR means change request is coming, and we need to define the change. We need to test the change request. Depending on those requests, we need to test our application. Let's go to the picture below in the next slide, and let's see how everything works. So basically before discussing the picture, let's see what kind of documents we need in test strategy. So basically in test strategy we define different things like test levels, roles and responsibilities, environment requirements, testing tools, which type of tools we are going to use for testing, automation tool, non-functional tool, a non-functional testing tool like JMeter or maybe any other tool, any security tool, risk and mitigation. So once we have defined the test strategy, are there any risk which will stop us from testing further, maybe any dependency from the backend team, we will not be able to test. So we need to define those risk and mitigation. Test schedule, when we are going to start the test, when we are going to finish the test, these kind of schedules, all the testing related schedule we are going to define. Regression test approach, what all test cases we are going to use for regression purpose, we need to define those. Test group, so basically in test groups we define all similar kind of test cases together. Maybe there is one functionality for search flight that will be in a one test group, then there is another functionality for adding coupon in a payment gateway, so that will be another group of test cases. Then test priorities, so depending upon the functionalities and the business requirement that we are getting, we need to define the test priorities. The test cases which are having higher priorities, we are going to test them first. Then at the end we are going to report the status collections and number of bugs reported, and apart from that how many test cases have passed and failure reports. We are going to define all those things, maybe in Excel sheet or maybe any test management tool. Then there is a test record maintenance. We are going to record all the previous status and the coming status we are going to maintain in the test record. Then requirement traceability matrix, basically requirement traceability matrix is like you can say against each requirement there are n number of test cases. So for example, it is a login login requirement, and for login we will be having some test cases. So you can say in simple word, requirement traceability matrix is a scenario which is having some test cases attached to it. So one scenario will have different test cases. So likewise, when we are having 4 to 5 scenarios, or maybe x number of scenarios, then all those x number of scenarios will have n number of test cases. So x will have 3 test cases, y will have 5 test cases. So this all together, all different requirements in a scenario combined together to form the requirement traceability matrix. In test summary, we'll give the final sign off and all the bugs that have been reported, all the other documents that are very important for the stakeholders. We are going to attach all those data, and then if any critical bug is there or maybe risk is involved, we are going to define all those things in the test strategy document. Okay, let's see this image. It's a very good image which I got. We are going to see the overall picture of the test strategy. You can see the type of tests which we need to do, we need to define in the test strategy. So business facing is having some requirement, and then there will be some automated tests like functional acceptance test. In manual, some showcases, usability testing, exploratory testing. These are manual tests which we need to do. From support programming, we are going to have some unit tests, integration test and system test. And from critic project, we are going to have some non-functional acceptance test, capacity, security. So these can also be like manual or automated, but unit integration system will be automated. So overall, depending upon the organization that you are working, can have different kind of test strategy. So it's not like everyone is going to follow the same test strategy. Every organization will have their own way of defining the testing strategy. So you can see in regression test suite, we need to maintain the new test cases that are coming in, and if we go here, there are like some bubbles in which developers and users are talking, did I get what I wanted? So basically there are certain questions which we are going to answer in this area, like from the user's perspective, what I am designing is good or not, and from the developer perspective, do I know when I am done? So from development perspective also, like how we can say, okay, this functionality has been done and this functionality has not been done. From integration point of view, we can follow happy path, alternate path and sad path. We are going to define the test strategy in such a way that we are going to have some happy path, alternate path and sad path. So happy path means like we are not performing any negative testing. Say for example, username and password for any user, if it is correct, it should be able to log in. So we are not going to test with incorrect user and correct password, or incorrect password or correct username. So these kind of things. And sad path is like we are only going to test the negative aspect of the system, not the positive aspect. Alternate path means we are going to do a mix and match of both the things. We are also going to see any plan that defers testing to the end of the project is broken. So we are going to maintain, and then you are going to see, and then you are going to update that thing. Once everything is done, then 6 weeks passes, then when the feedback comes, we need to make some corrections, and then we need to define everything. For test strategy, when we are defining anything, it's like that we are not waiting at the end for finalizing our testing strategy. We just need to start as soon as possible. Testing is a cross functional activity that involves the whole team and should be done continuously from the beginning of the project. Yeah, so that's what I was saying, like testing is like not only tester's responsibility, it's the responsibility of the whole team to follow the required process and deliver a very good product. Apart from that, test strategy can also contain some test plan. So basically, to summarize everything, test strategy is at an organization level and test plan is at a project level. Test plan doesn't involve that much of detail documentation, but it is good to have test plan if you are working project. It is good to have test strategy at an organization level and test plan at project level. So maybe you will be taking some information from the test strategy in order to incorporate in your test plan, so that you are able to utilize it in a better way in your project or product.
How we can write robust and very good test report. So basically, we are going to see the attributes that we need to have in order to write very good bug reports. So for writing bugs, definitely we need to have some attributes which are very important, and some of them are bug case ID, priorities, description, prerequisite, bug steps, expected result, stated, test executed by, and browser devices. Now let's talk something about these in detail, that what exactly these are and how they help in writing a good test bug report. So basically some of them are very similar to test case template, and we can find them in test reports also, test cases report also. So the first one is bug case ID. It is basically the unique ID that we usually assign to any bug that we find, maybe in any environment, production environment or staging environment. It can be any environment. We are assigning unique values to those bugs. So whatever issues that we are finding, maybe which is not related to functionality or maybe which is related to functionality, we are assigning them, so that when in future we are going to look them, we are able to identify them easily, that what was the issue that we logged against that particular bug ID. It helps in identifying the issue very easily. The second thing is priority. So priority means like when we need to solve this issue, when if any bug is raised, is it of high priority or is it of low priority. We can, in priority we can also write severity also, like high severity, low severity. Basically we are doing so that if any bug is there and if it is a high priority bug, we can just resolve it as early as possible as per the service level agreement that we have in the project, and it will help for quick resolution. So if any bug is of low priority, maybe we can just put them in the backlog and we can fix it later, maybe in any other version of the application. But if it is of high priority, we need to fix it as soon as possible. Description bug summary. So basically in this we write what exactly the bug is all about. Say for example, I am using any application, say Amazon, and in Amazon application I am not able to add my item into the cart. So this is an issue and it is a very critical issue because I am not able to add my item inside the cart, and it can cause huge financial loss to the organization. So therefore this issue will be of high priority and we need to fix it as soon as possible. So for writing this description or bug summary, we can write unable to add items inside the cart. And then prerequisite is basically what all we need to have in order to replicate that issue. So from my side, say for example, if I talked about the bug previously that I'm not able to add items inside the cart, then the prerequisite should be my test data, login data, and any other test data, maybe any environment data which I need to see. Then apart from that, Amazon site should be up and working, and maybe if any other test condition we need to fulfill in order to reproduce that issue, then we need to have all those prerequisites handy and ready. The next is bug steps, and in bug steps we write all the steps that we need to do in order to reproduce that bug. Say for example, I'm not able to log in into the Facebook app, then my bug step will be uh, enter correct username, enter correct password, and tap on login button. So these are my three test steps that we need to do in order to see and reproduce the issue. If I'm not able to log in into the Facebook application, these are the three basic steps that we need to do. Similarly, if you are getting any other issue, you need to write all these steps very clearly, very concisely, so that it is easily reproducible and the developers are not having much issue in replicating the issue. Okay, so basically in expected result, we see that if the user is able to log in or not. If the user is able to log in, we will write as expected. Otherwise, in actual result, we are going to write that user is not able to log in. So basically, once we are performing and retesting any issue that has been logged, then in the expected result, in the normal condition what is going to work. If it is going to work as expected, we are going to write as expected. So for example, there was an issue in which I was not able to log in, and now I am retesting the issue. So now in my expected result will be the user is able to log in if it is working fine and the issue is no more reproducible. But if the issue is still reproducible, then I am going to write in the actual result that the issue is still reproducible. So we are going to see later how we can write these things. The status is if the test case is pass or fail. If the functionality after the bug has been raised is working fine, we are going to write pass. Otherwise, we are going to write it fail. So for me, if I wrote a bug for login failure in Facebook, and after the bug has been fixed and it is working fine, I will write okay, the status is passed, now I am able to log in. But if I'm still not able to log in after the fix also, then the status will be fail. Bug executed by, so basically in this we are going to see who executed the bug. So we are going to write that in the Excel sheet or maybe anywhere else. If we are using Jira, we will just assign that issue or the bug that has been reported to the person to retest it again. So it will be easy. Say for example, I logged any bug and I'm able to reproduce it, and then I will ask the developer to fix it. Once developer has fixed that bug, then they can assign it back to me and I will retest that bug, and then I will pass or fail. The status will be pass or fail depending if the bug has been fixed or not. And in the end, we are also going to write any browser or device. Basically we are writing these so that we can narrow down the issue that is coming on any particular device or browser. This is done so maybe for example on Chrome browser the issue is happening, but on Firefox the issue is not happening. So in order to narrow down our you can say root cause analysis, we are writing on which browser it is reproducible easily, or maybe on which browser it is happening every time. We are going to write that thing. So in this video we are going to see how we can write good bug reports. And for writing bug reports, as discussed previously, there are certain attributes which we need to have in order to write a good bug report. So coming to the first one, which is bug case ID. Again, like test case template, if you haven't seen my video on test case, then you can just go there and see video on test case. So basically for writing bug case bug report, I just need to have a unique ID, and maybe I can just write it bug ID, bug ID. And for the sake of writing some bug reports, I am choosing Food Panda delivery website. So this is the website on which we are going to write some bug reports. For writing bug ID, we can write it anything which is very unique. So in actually it is related to the project that you are working on. They are having, all the projects have unique ID, and for Food Panda we can have something like Food Panda underscore 01, and we can also have it something like Food Panda underscore 01. It depends like how you want to keep it, but let's go with the first one. And say for example I found any bug here. Say for example, if I am validating anything and that is not working fine, when, let's go back to the home page. Suppose in this enter full address area, I'm not able to type. Right now I am able to type everything, but suppose I'm not able to type anything, then this is a bug for me. And in order to write the bug report, I need to specify that I'm not able to write in this text box, in the enter full address text box. So what I can do, I will just go here, and actually the priority for this bug will be very high because this is their core business. If they are not able to select, if user are not able to select the address, then I don't know where they are going to deliver and how they are going to select the items. So it will be a big issue for the website. And the description will be user not able to enter address, and the prerequisite for this maybe something like, okay, let me, so the prerequisite will be food panda URL should be working. Now what are the bug steps in order to reproduce that bug? What I am doing first, okay, so first I am going open this website, then click on which box is this, it is enter full address box. Click on enter your full address. What it is text box. So I will write something like this. Now expected result, user is not able to enter address inside the text box. Actual, what is the actual result? Like what actually should happen? So the actual result is user should enter text fully. So if the test, or sorry, if the bug is in the retesting phase and if it's still getting reproduced, I will just make it as fail, and I will just add the color so that it's visible that this is still failing, and executed by will be SAF, so that maybe if anyone wants to reproduce, or maybe if it is coming again for retesting, it is easier to identify who to assign this bug to. And browser, say for example, if this bug was reproducible on Chrome, I will write Chrome. It is, or if it is on Firefox, I will just write Firefox. So if we are supporting some 3-4 browsers and we have a browser matrix, then we can also write all browsers. So this is how we write bug report. Now let's write one more bug, say for bug report. So if we go here, maybe we can just see, okay, this is the, I think, language of the website, localization and translation. So I will see that if on tapping on these things, if it is working fine or not. So this will be, maybe if this, say for example, it is not working fine, for me it is a bug. So if suppose it is not working fine, how I'm going to write the bug for that? So I will just go here and I will write the bug ID. So for me bug ID will be food p and 02. Priority will be, I think priority will be not that much high, but then also it will be a bit high. Maybe we can write medium. And what is the description of the bug? So I'm not able to change the language. So the description will be not able to change language. So if we go here, we can see there are two languages. One is Chinese and one is Bhasha Malaysia. So if both languages are not working, I will write that not able to change to Bhasha Malaysia or Chinese. And if any one of them is not working, I will just write that Chinese language not working. So suppose if both language are not working, I will just write localization. So again, the prerequisite will be this one. And what is the test step? The test step, the first step will be same, and then second step will be, so the second step will be click on language selector in the top right corner. Now once I have done this, what is my expected result? So maybe I can also write click on language selector in top right corner to BH and Chinese, and the expected will be user should be able to select the language in PH or Chinese. This is going to be my expected result. And actual result, if I am re-verifying the bug, then I will write user is able to change the language. So basically for me, once I am re-verifying the issue, then I need to validate the actual result, and if it is working fine, I will write pass, and then again I will go here and I will make it green. So it will help me easily identify that okay, this issue was not working fine previously on some build version, now it is working fine. And again Saf Siddiqui, and maybe if the issue was on Chrome browser, I will just write Chrome. So this is how we are going to write all the bug reports, and we can also add screenshot or logs also somewhere, so it will help to identify the issue easily. And this is how actually we should write the bug report. We should add all the logs, all the screenshots, all the videos, whatever we need to write that, so it will become very easy for the developers to fix the issue. So this is the thing that we need to keep in mind, how we can write and design test cases for web applications and mobile applications. Basically, we are going to see what are certain attributes for writing test cases, and also we are going to see how we can write a good bug report and how we can design bugs report. So basically, for writing test cases, I believe you all should be aware that why we write test cases. So let's go on that first. Basically, we write test cases so that once we are doing any regression, or maybe we are not having any requirement handy, we can refer them and we can execute those test cases in order to make sure that whatever the functionality has been implemented previously, it is working fine, and it is useful for doing regression, and we execute all those test cases in regression. Also sometimes we can utilize these test cases for writing automation also, and it can also be used to do sanity testing and smoke testing. So basically, for writing test cases, there are certain attributes which we need to keep in mind, and these attributes are okay. So the attributes which we need to keep in mind for writing test cases are: first, these are important attributes, and the first one is test case ID, the second one is priority, the third one is description or test summary. So test case ID defines the uniqueness of the test cases that we are writing. So every test case will have a unique test case ID. And priority means like when we want to do that test case, is it like important functionality, we prioritize them. Like if this test case is important, I will do it first, and if this test case is not important, I will do it later. Description, in the description section we describe what the test case will be like. Say for example, if I want to test Facebook login, then my test case description will be correct the behavior of Facebook with email login, or maybe anything which is very simple and it is easy for anyone to understand, we are going to write something like that. And prerequisite is like if any precondition we need to have in order to execute those test cases. So if we are talking any generic example like login, so for login, the best example of prerequisite is like the URL for the application. Say for example, I am testing for Facebook, the URL of Facebook should be up and working, and we should have some test data. This is the prerequisite of testing Facebook login. Then test step. Test step means what are the test steps that we are going to perform in order to execute any test case. So basically
it is going to be a simple step by step process by which if we will perform those things we are going to execute any test case. Once we have written test steps and we have reached to a scenario which is at the end of the test step, then we need to do the expectations of the test case, that what exactly it is expecting. And say for example, if I am entering correct username and correct password, then Facebook should log in. So this is my expected. And actually once I have performed all these steps, is it able to log in? If it is not able to log in, it is failing, the test case is failing. So in that situation, our actual result is failing. We are not able to log in. We are going to say actual result, user not able to log in into Facebook. So status can either be pass, fail, or not applicable. So if the test cases is working as expected and as per the test step, then we are going to write that status is pass. If the expected output is negative or it is failing, then the status will be failed. And we are going to define all these things and test executed by basically if we are working in a team of 10-15 members, it will be difficult who perform what test and how we can keep track of that. In order to do that, what we can do, we can add one more column in the Excel sheet where we can define that okay, the test cases that has been executed by SAF, I will write my name there, and if anyone else is executing those test cases, then we will write their name. So in this section we are going to write the test cases in real life situation. And for writing the test cases, the website that I have chosen is Make My Trip. So basically it's a travel and hospitality related website, and we are going to write some test cases for Make My Trip. So as discussed earlier, test case ID is a unique ID, and for writing test case for Make My Trip, I'm just taking it MMT underscore 01. So my next test case can be MMT underscore 02. Similarly, we can keep on writing all the test case ID. It's not necessary to write MMT underscore 01. You can just take it as Make My Trip 01. You can also choose this. It depends like how you want to write and what unique ID you want to have, but it should be consistent across test case and maybe bug reporting also. Once I go to Make My Trip, I will be writing one test case maybe to see that if I am able to tap on hotels. Yeah, see it's working. So how we are going to write the test case that tapping on hotel is working fine and we should land on hotel booking page. So for that, what we can do, we will just go here. I think the priority for landing on hotel is also very important because it is one of the core business for the Make My Trip application and Make My Trip company. So definitely the priority will be high, and test case description test summary is what we are going to do. So in this situation, we are going to write that user should be able to tap on hotel, or if you want you can also write something like this: hotel section should be capable. Now the prerequisite for this is Make My Trip URL should be working. In my opinion, I don't think so we need any other prerequisite, but depending upon the test case that you are executed, you can have any prerequisite for that test case. So I was on flight, I just tapped on here, and for writing the test case I will just go here, and for writing the test step, what is my first test step? I open the URL. So this is going to be my first test step.
open URL. What is the second test step? The second test step will be C. The second test step is I am here on the home page. I will tap on hotel or I will click on hotel. Depending I am on mobile or I am on web, I will do tap or click. So here what we are going to write? We are going to write second tap click on hotel image in top navigation. So what is top navigation? So whatever test case we are writing for this whole area. So for me, if I want to simplify, I will say this is a top navigation, because if I'm not going to specify where to write, where to click on this page, then the one who is trying to write the test case, or maybe the one who is reading the test case after that, it will be difficult for them to identify for which place this test case has been written. So I will just write tap on top navigation. Now, since I have tapped on hotels in top navigation, keep in mind I am considering this as an image. You can also consider it as an icon or maybe as a single tab. It depends like how the website has been designed. So maybe I can just write it backslash hotel icon. So now what is the expected result? Once I do this much, what I am expecting? So in this case, I am expecting that I should successfully land on hotel booking page. And to write that, what I will do, expected result is hotel booking page should open. And what is going to be the actual result? So basically, once I am tapping on, let's suppose we were here and I am tapping on hotel, what is actually you are seeing? If I'm executing these test cases in real life, I'm going to see that okay, I am successfully landing on hotel booking page. How I am going to identify I am landing on hotel booking page? Because this is the requirement. I need to see city, hotel, area, building on hotel booking page. This is hotel booking page. This is flight booking page. So this is villa booking page. And likewise, you can differentiate all the pages that you are having, and you can write the test case for that. So the actual result for me will be successfully landing on hotel booking page. And if it is not successfully landing, I can just write not able to open hotel booking page or hotel booking tab not working. We can write something like that. So for me, suppose if I'm executing the test case and it is working fine, then I will write as pass. And if test case executed by will be my name. Now let us write one more test case on make my trip. So basically the test case that we can write is maybe select country. Maybe we can write, there is one more test case which we can write. Currently I am on India, and the country selection I can do is for UAE maybe. So in order to write this test case, what we can do, I will just go here. So test case ID, it will be similar. I will just add 02 for the second test case. Priority, I'm not sure what is the priority, but I believe it should be of high priority because it looks like their major functionality. They are providing it in to 3 different countries. Sorry, I mean not countries, but it is asking to select the countries. It should be available everywhere, but like they are giving the option to select from 4 countries, maybe because of payment or something. I'm not sure why they are doing so. So I will just select maybe UAE, and now I go here. So in the test description section, I will write maybe country, country country should be visible in, what is this? If I see here, I think it's just a country drop down maybe. So I will write country should be visible in CO country drop down list. The prerequisite, in my opinion, will be same, and the test step will be the first step. Remember, it will be same. Open URL. Maybe what I can do, I can also write what kind of URL I want to open. Maybe I will just go here and I will write open URL, this one, and this first step I believe will be same across most of the test case. So I will just write it here. Now the second step will be select country from country drop down list, and the expected will be, maybe we can make it more precise. Country should be visible in country drop down list, and actually we can more redefine it and write additional test cases for that, but let us as of now write the simple test case. So I will write in expected. So if I'm executing the test case and I'm able to see what I will write, country from country drop down list is visible, and if the test case is filing I will write pass, and again the name will be Saif Siddiqui since I am writing or maybe I am executing the test case. Let's write one more test case, MMT03, and the test case will be maybe any low, depending upon what test case I am writing. I will just write that, and the test step will be, it will be selecting the UAE country. So what I will do, I will just write it UAE country should be visible in country drop down list and selectable. Selectable. So the prerequisite, it will be same. The first step I believe it will be same again, and the second step will be, select UAE from OUNTRY country drop down list. So if we go here, we have UAE, we log in, we go to here country drop down list, we tap and then we select UAE, right? So now we can also do open country drop down list. We need to write it as simple as possible so that if others are executing our test case, they are not finding any difficulty in executing those test case. Select UAE. So what is the expected once you are executing these test case? Are you able to select UAE? So if you are able to select, then the expectation is I should be able to select UAE. So for that my expectations will be user should be able to select UAE. If I am able to select UAE, I will write user is able to select UAE successfully. Otherwise, I will write user is not able to select UAE and my test case will fail. Once a test case is failing, I will write executed by. We can just to highlight it that what exactly the test case is and it is failing, I can just mark it red so that it's easy to identify which test case is failing. And once the bug has been fixed, or maybe if it is not reproducible later, then we can identify that in the test report, and then we can mark it green, or maybe we can then later, if it is still reproducible, ask the developer to fix this bug as soon as possible. I hope you liked my video for writing test cases. In case you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, please do so, as I will keep posting new videos related to software testing, automation and other tech related videos. Please do like my video if you like it. Thank you very much.